Hello students, welcome to my class. Today I will teach electrolysis. In this chapter I will explain the process, mechanism, applications of electrolysis. To repeat, I will stick to your syllabus, and this chapter is again very interesting and easy to understand. Though you will need a little bit of practice, the equations are actually simple, so you will not find it difficult. And I'm sure you will be able to answer also all the questions, and I will discuss all the types of questions in my video that you may get in the board papers. So please like, share and subscribe my channel. And here we begin. Basically, when we say electrolysis, it is to bring about chemical change by the passage of electricity. But to do a little bit of revision, we all know that when we talk about metals, we know that it allows electricity, and we call them good conductors. But non-metals at the same time, when we talk about non-metals, they are non-conductors, and the difference between the two is the free electrons. For metals, there are flow of electrons, therefore they allow electricity to pass through easily, whereas non-metals, they do not allow electricity to pass through and are insulators. But at the same time, there are some conductors. Also, the electricity is conducted in some other cases also, other than metals and non-metals. For some compounds, they conduct electricity in their aqueous state, or even for molten or fused state. Even only in this state, solid state, they don't conduct. So they are known as electrolyte. For example, maybe copper chloride solution, sodium chloride solution, even the molten sodium chloride or fused sodium chloride. And the substances which do not allow electricity are known as non-electrolyte, like you can say sugar solution. They will not allow electricity to flow through even if it is in the solution state, and these are known as non-electrolytes. Amongst electrolyte also, there are strong electrolyte, weak electrolyte and non-electrolyte, which I will be discussing in detail about it. But right now, let us talk about certain differences. These differences, there are many terms of many terms on which you have to differentiate in the exam papers. But right now, let me talk about the metallic conductors and the electrolytic conductors. When we say metallic conductors, like just now I spoke about it, there are electrons which flow from negative pole to the positive pole. That means there is one stream electrons flowing from a negative terminal towards a positive terminal. It is a physical process, okay? There are no new substances forming. The composition is not changed. They can conduct electricity in both solid and liquid state. So these are known as metallic conductors. But when we talk about the electrolytic conductors, like we were discussing just now about the copper chloride solution, the sodium chloride solution, the molten sodium chloride, these are the electrolytic conductors. In this case, they allow current flow in two streams, that is, from positive to the negative and from negative to the positive. So the positive ions, they are known as the cations. They flow towards the cathode, and the negative ions known as anions flow towards the anode. And in this case, it is only possible in the aqueous state or the molten state. Solid state, it is not possible. And all the more the new products are formed. So a chemical change is also taking place here. Therefore, these are common differences between the metallic conductor and one electrolytic conductor. So, let me just revise once again. When we say electrolysis, it is a process of decomposition, means the chemical compound will first decompose in the aqueous state or in the molten state, which we discussed just now, by using direct flow of current. And when we say electrolyte, these are the compounds which in the molten state or aqueous state will allow electricity to pass through. Examples. Now, there are many examples I gave you too. There are acids also, like HCl, then H2SO4, then some bases like sodium hydroxide, then salts I already gave. So other examples also I will be discussing about it just now. But when we talk about this electrolytic conductors, there are actually three types. One is a strong electrolyte, one is a weak electrolyte, another is a non-electrolyte. So there are three types of electrolytes: strong electrolyte, weak electrolyte, non-electrolyte. Means these substances will allow current or not. When it is a strong electrolyte, it will allow large amount of electricity to flow through. When it is a weak electrolyte, they will allow less or small amount of electricity. When it is a non-electrolyte, it will not allow any electricity to pass through. That means definitely the strong electrolytes are good conductor, these are poor conductor, and these are non-conductor of electricity. Actually, this strong electrolyte or weak electrolyte or non-electrolyte is depending upon the major thing, that is degree of dissociation. So whenever electricity is passed through, a compound dissociates. It depends upon how much is the dissociation. If it is a complete dissociation, it is a strong electrolyte. If it is a partial dissociation, it's a weak electrolyte. And if it does not dissociate, it is a non-electrolyte. So when it is completely dissociated, in this case of strong electrolyte, it will contain only free mobile ions. They will contain only free mobile ions. When there is a partial dissociation, in case of weak electrolyte, they will contain ions and some of the molecules which are not dissociated, the undissociated molecules. And in case of non-electrolyte, they will not have ions because they don't dissociate. So they will be containing only molecules and will not allow electricity to pass through. So definitely, if a bulb is attached to it, there will be a bulb which will glow brightly in case of strong electrolyte, will glow dimly in case of weak electrolyte, will not glow for a non-electrolyte. And some of the examples for strong electrolytes are all strong acids: hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid; strong bases: sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide; salt solution: sodium chloride solution, copper chloride solution, lead bromide solution, copper sulfate solution. Weak electrolytes are normally the weak acids like carbonic acid, acetic acid, oxalic acid. Weak bases: ammonium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide; salt, ammonium salts, ammonium chloride salt, ammonium carbonate salt. Non-electrolytes are generally all the organic compounds, and distilled water, of course, you know H2O is the strongest non-electrolyte because pure water will not allow electricity to flow through. So distilled water, alcohol, kerosene, carbon disulfide, cane sugar. There are many examples written in your text, children. You are expected to learn all of them. So we talk about metallic conductors, electrolytic conductors, electrolysis, electrolytes, strong electrolytes, weak electrolytes, non-electrolytes. All the points I have written it down and I explained also just now. These all definitions are there in your text. I should repeat myself. please see that you learn all the definitions thoroughly and correctly, and all the examples also, because there can be a question where you will have mixed, like here I have written, all these will be written in mixed form, and you have to segregate them into a strong electrolyte, a weak electrolyte, and a non-electrolyte. I have put down the basic points of strong electrolyte and non-electrolyte. You should learn them. Differences also you should learn them. And there are other differences also, like some of the common topics which you already know, maybe still I can give you the names, like you can differentiate between anions and cations, anode and cathode. These are the common questions whose differences are generally asked in the exam. So now, before coming to anode and cathode, anion and cation, I'm sure you know. Anode and cathode, I'm coming to it just now. Before, I just do a little part about this electrolytic cell, which is also known as a voltmeter. Now here, this is your electrolytic cell, which is got two electrodes dipped in it, named as anode and cathode, and it is attached to a cell or a battery to the terminals. So the electrode which is connected to the negative terminal is a cathode, and the electrode which is connected to the positive terminal is the anode. So when you have the electrolyte here in the electrolytic cell, due to water present in it in the aqueous state or fused state, when it is heated it melts, they will be dissociating into its respective cations and anions, and with electricity the cations will go towards the cathode and the anions will go towards the anode. Now they will discharge themselves. The cations will discharge itself at the cathode and the anions will discharge itself at the anode. So now if you want to differentiate between anode and cathode, anode is the electrode which is connected to the positive terminal. Cathode is the electrode which is connected to the negative terminal. And anions migrate to the anode and cations migrate to the cathode. Anions to the anode, cations to the cathode, because they are all present in the electrolyte. After that, after they migrate to the anode or cathode, they will discharge themselves, thus resulting in the anode is oxidation and the cathode is reduction. How? Anions means there is a negative charge. Loss of this negative charge to discharge itself is oxidation. Cations means they are positive charge. They will gain electrons, and gain of electron is nothing but reduction. So this is very important, that in an electrolyte which is taken in the electrolytic cell, in the solution form or the fused form, when they are dissociated into the ions, that is anions or cations, due to electric current they will start flowing towards the anode or the cathode, and in this process anions move towards the anode and cations move towards the cathode. At the anode, ions will be lost, so oxidation takes place. At the cathode, electrons are gained, so it is a reduction. So this is the basic process which I have also noted down here, some of the points, that electrolyte on dissociation is water. In water, dissociates into free mobile ions, and the ions are responsible for the flow of current through the solution. And in this case, this is very important, that the number of positive charges is always equal to the number of negative charges. And why do the electrolyte dissociate when water is there in the solution, because water has got a very strong very strong ability to break the electrostatic force of attraction. Due to its polar nature, when the ionic compound is put, the force that is holding the ions together is weakened, so the bond is broken. And in the molten state also, when it is heated, the bond is broken. So they are dissociated into charges, and plus charge or the minus charge, and just now I said how they dissociate at the cathode or the anode in the respective electrode. So if you talk about what is oxidation and reduction, you all know that if you gain oxygen, of course it is oxidation. So definitely the loss of oxygen is reduction. If there is gain of hydrogen, of course reduction, so loss of hydrogen is oxidation. Similarly, gain of electrons and loss of electrons. Gain of electron is always reduction. Loss of electrons definitely oxidation. There are certain oxidizing agents also that work, which we have spoken about it last year, that they help in oxidation, like manganese dioxide, MnO2, red lead, Pb3O4, strong oxidizing agents. Then gases like sulfur dioxide, oxygen, liquids like hydrogen peroxide, and yes, nitric acid, sulfuric acid, very strong oxidizing agents. There are reducing agents also which will help in reduction, like carbon, the metal carbon, coke, or hydrogen gas, or any metal, zinc, aluminium, liquid hydrogen peroxide. So there are certain common names also, like hydrogen peroxide. It works as both oxidizing and reducing agent. Like sulfur dioxide acts as both oxidizing and reducing agent. So these are examples and definitions which are important from the question paper point of view. Now we are going to the next topic, maybe where I will be, suppose we are talking about the electrolytic process itself. Now, when this electrolysis takes place, there are again two terms, and that dissociation or ionization. So when I talk about dissociation and ionization, so just now I was talking to you about how water weakens the bond, or molten state heat weakens the bond. But dissociation is actually talking about ionic compounds. It is talking about ionic compounds. But ionization talks about covalent compounds. Compounds. Because covalent compounds, some of the covalent compounds are polar in nature. Like you can say HCl. Polarity is there because chlorine is more electronegative than hydrogen. So it will dissociate as delta positive and delta minus. So HCl will dissociate or ionize. We can not say dissociate here. It will ionize as H plus and Cl minus. Whereas when we talk about dissociation, it is always ionic compound which will give you Na plus plus Cl minus, because the strong electrostatic force of attraction is weakened either due to heat, which is molten state or fused state we are talking, or due to water. Water will also get H plus and OH minus. This dissociation, we have to learn it very nicely. These are the simple equations which I was talking to you. So this is the major difference between ionization and dissociation. Covalent compound, this is for ionic compound, and separation of ions here. Here positive ions and negative ions are separated in both the cases. You can try with any other ionic compound, even KCl, K plus Cl minus, then lead bromide, lead ion and bromine ions, which we are going to talk about it again. There is one more theory, that is Arrhenius theory, and the modern concept on electrolysis, and the basic difference is that Arrhenius said that water ionizes, whereas the modern theory believes that the ions are held by the strong electrostatic force, which are weakened by water, which makes it weak. That is the basic difference between the Arrhenius concept and modern concept. The points are there in your text. You are expected to learn all the definition, all the theories. Now there are certain characteristics when we are talking about electrolysis. So the basic or some of the common points are the number of electrons gained at the anode is exactly equal to the number of electrons given by the cathode. So only hydrogen or any metal gets discharged at cathode because they have got plus charge, and all the non-metals get discharged at the anode. So I repeat myself that the number of electrons gained by the anode will be exactly equal to the number of electrons given by the cathode, and hydrogen and metals can be discharged at the cathode, whereas non-metals are discharged at the anode. Now the process of electrolysis is a redox reaction, because both oxidation and reduction are taking place simultaneously, and I just showed you how and where oxidation takes place and why in the previous slide. Now suppose we are talking about electrolysis of molten sodium chloride. So you are heating sodium chloride. So in the fused state, the sodium chloride gives you Na plus and Cl minus. This is the dissociation of sodium chloride. Dissociation of sodium chloride. After these are there in the electrolytic cell, the anions go to the cathode. So at the cathode, the reaction that takes place is Na plus electron gives you Na. So what is happening here? Gain of electrons. So reduction is taking place, and at the same time at the anode, the Cl minus loses one electron to give you Cl. Loss means oxidation takes place. Single Cl is very unstable, so 2Cl together gives you Cl2 gas. So at the cathode, what do you get? Sodium metal. And at the anode, what do you get? The chlorine gas. While observation also, you can say that a gas is released at the anode, whereas a mass increases, metal deposition is seen at the cathode. Suppose there is one observation question. So let's proceed further. So we all know about this then. Now if we are talking about now discharge at the cathode or the anode, then the question arises, which anode? Because just now I showed you the dissociation of sodium chloride, where the electrolyte consists of sodium ion and chlorine ion. But if it is sodium chloride solution, you have sodium ion, chloride ion, hydrogen ion and OH ion. So there are two types of cations and two types of anions in the electrolytic cell. Let me go back to the previous slide, that if this electrolytic cell and this is the electrolyte, then this electrolyte will consist of all the four types of anions and cations. Now the question is, which cation will go to the cathode and which anion will go to the anode? On that basis, the explanation is preferential discharge of ions at electrodes. That means, what are the factors on which this preferential discharge of ions at the electrode depends? The first factor, the relative position of ions in the electrochemical series. The second factor, the relative concentration of ions. The third factor, the nature of the electrode. Now come one by one. See the first one, the relative position of ions in the electrochemical series. Actually, there are two types of series. One is electropositive series, another is one electronegative series, which is very clearly stepwise written in your book. Now, when it is one electrochemical series in a positive or a negative, when you come down, the ease to discharge at the cathode increases. Means the position lower, it is easily discharged. The position upper, it is difficult to discharge. The reason, the one at the top is the most reactive. We have done the activity series of metals. But in electrolysis, you will get the activity series of metals and also of non-metals. Like potassium, calcium, sodium, magnesium, like this we come down. The one which is lower will be discharged first than the one which is upper in the activity series. If we talk about the electronegative series, they are sulfate ions, nitrate ions, chloride, bromide, iodide and hydroxyl ion. So the one which is lower is having more ease to discharge itself at the electrode. Based on that, the first factor, that relative position of ion in the electrochemical series. I will discuss more example about it. Right now, just a gist. The relative concentration of ion. If the concentration of that particular ion is more, then even if its position is higher in the activity series, it gets discharged first. Third, the nature of the electrode. Whether the electrode is an inert one or the electrode is active decides what is being discharged at the anode or the cathode. We will discuss more about it. Let's now discuss one by one, taking examples of first that I have taken here is electrolysis of copper sulfate solution, and in this is the case where I have used one inert electrode. So first, when we say copper sulfate solution, then the ionic equation or the dissociation will be copper sulfate giving you copper ion and sulfate ion, water breaking into hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion. Now in the electrolyte, what are the types of ions that you are having? You are having copper ion, hydrogen ion, you are having sulfate ion and you are having hydroxyl ion. But amongst these two cations, hydrogen and copper, which will go to the cathode, because both will have a tendency to discharge itself and move towards the cathode, but the place of the cation which is lower is preferentially discharged. So copper being lower than hydrogen will get discharged at the cathode and give you copper metal, whereas between sulfate and hydroxyl ion, hydroxyl being lower will preferentially discharge itself at the anode and give you OH, but OH is very unstable, so it will give you water and oxygen. So the product at the cathode is copper, and the product at the anode is oxygen. Now if this is the question and you are put a question on observation question, then what will be your answer? You see metal deposit at cathode or a reddish metal deposit at cathode or increase in mass at cathode, whereas at anode you see a gas being liberated, a colorless gas, odorless gas, which will extinguish a burning splinter. So the observation is also important. The second example that I have taken here to show you the relative concentration of ion, and the question is electrolysis of concentrated sodium chloride solution. Sodium chloride I have just now showed molten and solution both. Let me just repeat once again. If it is sodium chloride solution, your sodium chloride will give you sodium ion and chlorine ion. Water will give you hydrogen and OH. Out of the two cations, hydrogen being lower will discharge at the cathode giving you hydrogen gas. Whereas out of chlorine and OH will get discharged at the anode and thereby give you oxygen gas. Whereas if it is a molten one, then Na plus and Cl minus, no other cation and anion, so definitely sodium at the cathode and chlorine gas at the anode. But here the question is electrolysis of concentrated sodium chloride solution. We come back to the ionic equation or dissociation, that is sodium chloride NaCl will give you Na plus Cl minus, water will give you H plus and OH minus. Now you have sodium ion and hydrogen ion concentrated, so more of sodium ion. Sodium ion should have been discharged at the cathode, but this is an exception where hydrogen is preferentially anyway lower reactive than the most reactive sodium, so hydrogen only gets discharged at the cathode exceptionally, so you get hydrogen gas at the cathode. But doesn't happen for the anions where you have chloride ion and hydroxyl ion. Even if chloride is higher than plays higher in the electrochemical series than OH, due to its more concentration, chloride will get discharged at the anode and you will get chlorine gas at the anode instead of getting oxygen. I have taken one more example to show electrolysis of molten lead bromide. So dissociation is lead ions and bromine ions. Cathode lead will discharge into metal, showing you silvery gray. Bromine comes out as gas, so dark reddish brown vapor, though it is a liquid in state, but initially when it starts getting discharged at the anode, it comes out as vapor, and that is reddish brown vapor in nature. Now we talk about one of the very important process in electrolysis, that is electrolysis of acidified water. Why acidified water? Because you all know that water is inert. Water will not allow, it's a non-conductor, it will not allow electricity to pass through it. Therefore, what do? We acidify it a little, because impure water, you all know, will allow electricity to pass through, but we don't impure it. We put sulfuric acid. So ionization will be water breaking into, as shown just now, H plus and OH minus, and sulfuric acid will give you H plus and SO4 minus, sulfate ions. Now the type of cation here is same, so there is no problem in the cathode. Hydrogen ion will get discharged, and H being very unstable, you will get hydrogen gas at the cathode. So your observation is a colorless, odorless gas which burns with a pop sound is given out at the cathode. Out of the two, hydroxyl and sulfate is at the top, very reactive, will not discharge. So OH discharge at anode gives you OH, which is unstable, and gives you oxygen. So this is released at anode, a colorless, odorless gas which rekindles the glowing splinter. But along with oxygen, water is also given, and it is coming back to the electrolyte, where due to the acid it dissociates into H plus and OH minus again. But at the same time, you must be seeing that the sulfate ions also go towards the anode with a tendency to get discharged, but preferentially OH get discharged. Thus, the acidity decreases at cathode and more at the anode. This is because the sulfate ions migrate towards the anode and H plus ions have been discharged, so the sulfuric acid near the anode will be more and less at the cathode. This is one interesting question which you may get. Now we come to type of electrode, means inert or active. When it is active electrode, the reaction changes. When it is inert, till now we were discussing about the inert electrodes. Now electrolysis of copper sulfate using copper electrode. I will just want you all to go back to the electrolysis of copper sulfate where I have written it down. Do you all know, children, the sulfate ions are not discharged at the anode, so they are not disturbed. That means the color of the blue color due to the copper ions which is already there being discharged at the cathode, the blue color fades slowly because you are not adding copper salt again and again. So the copper is being used, sulfate ions are left. So the blue color of the electrolyte fades slowly. This I just took so that I can show you the difference here when that same copper sulfate solution is electrolyzed but with the copper electrode. First one, dissociation same, copper ions and sulfate ions, whereas water will give you H plus and OH minus ions. But since the anode is made up of copper electrode, instead of discharging hydroxyl ion, copper ions will be liberated at the anode. And at the cathode it is the same, the copper ions will go and get discharged, giving you copper metal. Now when the deposition of copper is there, it is gain of mass at cathode, loss of mass at anode. So the reactions are really important. The differences are also important because copper ions are continuously supplied to the electrolyte by the anode. The blue color of the electrolyte is maintained. Whereas when it was an inert electrode, I just showed you, the blue color fades. In this case, because the copper ions are continuously supplied by the anode, the blue color of the electrolyte is maintained. It is same throughout, just the loss of ions from here. So the anode becomes thinner and thinner, cathode becomes more in mass, so thicker and thicker. So there are different questions on it which you can always learn. There is one important type of question in this chapter is that they can ask you many reasoning questions, and for that you will have to go through the chapter very nicely. All the reasoning questions will be there, which I have explained also some of them. See, when you read the chapter, whatever doubts you have, please put it in the comment section. Now I will be definitely clearing them, and the types of questions that I am talking about also are important. So practice all the electrolyzed compounds, their reactions, their dissociation, the reasoning question, the differences questions, the observation question. Now we come to the applications of electrolysis. There are three actually: electroplating of metal, electrorefining of metal, and extraction of metal. Electrorefining and extraction, I have not written it down here because you all know that we discussed just now that metal will be discharged at the cathode. So definitely you will get the pure metal at the cathode. This one is very important, electroplating of article. And your syllabus, we only have electroplating with silver and electroplating with nickel. And for a silver, we don't go for silver nitrate solution because it gets discharged so fast that the deposition of silver at the cathode will become very uneven. Thus your purpose of beautifying the article is lost. So we go for the electrolyte as sodium argentocyanide, or you can also say potassium argentocyanide. Like instead of sodium, you can put potassium here. So silver nitrate is not used. Second thing that you have to take care in place of electroplating is that the current should be low current. There should be AC current. All these little bit of care you have to take. The article that has to be plated should always be the cathode because metal deposition is on the cathode. And the metal with which you have to electroplate should be the anode, because from anode the metal ions are continuously given out in the electrolyte. So in case of silver plating, sodium argentocyanide will give you sodium ion, silver ion, cyanide ion, and water will give you hydrogen and OH minus. But since this is active metal, The anode is made up of silver metal, so instead of discharging the anions, it will itself supply silver ions to the electrolyte, and those silver ions will be discharged at the cathode, depositing silver metal on the article, that is the cathode. Same with the nickel. With nickel, we can go with nickel sulfate. This is the dissociation, reaction at the cathode, reaction at the anode. There are other equations also. I have actually tried to include almost every type of reactions here that was important when we talk about electrolysis. I have also discussed the types of questions, children. Watch the video, go through the chapter. Please try out with the exercises also. If you have any doubt, please put it in the comment section for me to clear your doubts. And children, please hit the like button, share and subscribe my channel. Do hit the bell icon to get notified of my upcoming video.